Hello and welcome back to Book and Page. We are on to scene 5 of Bacchae. We're hitting the end, and Pentheus is dead. Long live Pentheus. So, as always, we'll first do a summary and then we'll talk a bit about what actually occurred in this scene. So, it is a shorter chapter, but it's certainly a violent one, again keeping in mind that we're not seeing this on stage. We're being told about it in extreme detail. There's no stepping around in this one. You know exactly how Pentheus died, and the answer is terribly. Terribly violently. Okay, so, messenger, servant, slave, somebody, enters the stage and is lamenting the loss that Thebes has just endured. And the chorus asks what happened, and the messenger announces that Pentheus is dead. And the chorus is certainly not upset. They actually seem to be celebrating. And the messenger actually rebukes them for celebrating something evil that has occurred. And they're just like, tell us how it happened. Go on, tell us how it happened. So the messenger does recount the full event, starting with the fact that he followed his master Pentheus and the foreign stranger, which is the disguised Dionysus, up into the mountains. And they arrived to see the Bacchic revelers, but Pentheus wasn't able to see them properly, and said he wanted to see them better. So, without suspecting anything, Dionysus, the disguised, the foreigner, grabbed hold of a tree and pulled it down and put Pentheus on the tree and then put him back up into the air so that he could see everything from a great height. And then he, as the foreigner, disappeared, and the voice of Dionysus made itself known and called the Maenads to attack Pentheus. But unfortunately, their projectiles don't reach him, so they all gang up together and literally pull the tree out of the ground, dropping Pentheus down among them. And there's a moment where Pentheus pleads with his mother, who's coming at him, to recognize him and not kill him, but she thinks he's some sort of lion cub, and literally tears his arm off. Like, grabs his wrist and, like, tears his arm off. And then it's just a free-for-all from there. The other women join in, and he's torn limb from limb, screaming in agony while he's still alive. So, with that recounted, the messenger says, "Obey the gods. Pentheus' mother is coming with his head. I'm gonna leave, because I'm the type of person that's gonna take the blame for this." And books it. The messenger is out, because he's not gonna be here when this all goes wrong. So, yeah, that's the scene. And it stops in an odd place. We usually get the chorus ending a scene. That's not happening here, because we have a very clear connection into the Exodius, or the final scene for the play. Because literally the servant's been like, and there's Pentheus' mother coming with his head! Bye! Gone. So we're ending the scene more with the exit of the messenger, and instead of going to the chorus, we know full well that the play would just continue with the entrance of Agave, with Pentheus' head. So a bit of a weird change of scene that we haven't seen with the prior changes of scenes. Usually the chorus ends us off, but that's not happening here, right? Yeah, no, Pentheus' mother is coming and I'm gonna leave. So, along with sort of the odd ending, we certainly have to try and piece out how exactly we feel about what just went down. Because, like I said, that description is an extremely violent one. And, like, okay, so I'm going quite a ways into the messenger's speech, but Pentheus has been taken out of the tree. His mother was the first at the killing. She was priestess, and she rushed to attack him. He tore off his headband in hopes she would recognize him, not kill him. He reached out to her cheek, miserable agaves, and said, "I am yours, mother, your child Pentheus. You gave me birth in the house of Echion. Pity me, mother, I have made mistakes, but do not kill your son because of them." She was foaming at the mouth, face twisting, eyes rolling, not thinking as she ought to think. She was possessed by Bacchus and did not believe him. Grabbing his left wrist with her hands, she braced her foot against his ribs, but a horrible fate for him, and tore off his shoulder, but not by brute strength. The god made it come off easily in her hands. On the other side, Ino, who's one of Bacchae's sisters, so Pentheus' aunt, was taking him apart, breaking off bits of meat. Antio, again the other sister, and a mob of Bacchae all went after him then. Then there was screaming everywhere. He kept crying in pain as long as he had breath. They were howling in triumph. Off went one forearm, another took his foot with its hunting boot, and his ribs were stripped, flesh torn away. They all had blood on their hands. They tossed Pentheus' meat like balls in a game of catch. The body is spread around, one piece by a rugged cliff, another deep in the woods under heavy foliage, impossible to find. His head, this is horrible. It turned out that his mother took it in her hands. She got it planted on the tip of her thymus, and she carried it straight down. Kirathon thinks it's a mountain lion, leaves her sisters to dance for Bacchus. She's gleeful about her hunting. Her luck was cruel. Yeah, like that just happened. So, the reason why we have to try and figure out how we feel about this is also to try and figure out how the play wants us to feel about this. Because we're certainly of two minds here. One, this play is a tragedy. And that's going to play into something that we'll come back to. But the other issue is the use of the chorus here. Because the chorus is excited that Pentheus is dead. They're celebrating it. They're really quite happy. But like I said, this is a tragedy, and the servant actually steps in, the messenger, and says that they shouldn't be celebrating something evil. It's not just that Pentheus is dead. We do have two things that we also have to be concerned about. One, it was a horrible way to die, like torn limb from limb. But two, he was killed by his mother and his aunts. And that's filicide and nepticide. I looked it up, and I hope the CIA doesn't come running for me looking up the names for killing one's son and killing one's nephews. So, like, it's not just that Pentheus died, but he died in an extremely violent manner, and he died to people that he should be protected by, who he loves and trusts. And it's not just then from Pentheus' perspective. When these women come around and have a realization of exactly what they did, that is blood on their hands. Of somebody that they loved and trusted and wanted to protect. Pentheus is not the only one affected here. His mother Agave and her sisters, his aunts, and his grandfather, the rest of Thebes, the servant that just witnessed it all, any of the other women involved in this. There are so many lives that have been affected here that we have to ask ourselves whether or not they deserved it. I don't think any mother deserves to snap one day and kill her children. The children certainly don't deserve to have that happen. They don't deserve to die in that manner. But the mother, in losing control and in not being in control of her faculties, to do that and then wake up and realize it, like, that needs to cause some feelings in your heart. They can be really complicated feelings, but you need to have some feelings there. If you're not having some feelings there, either you're not thinking about everything, like, Dionysus here has gone to the extreme. Because when you look at the entire situation, if we are using the chorus in a traditional manner, which is to say, the chorus is how the audience should be feeling right now, what are we being told to ignore or accept or even celebrate? What emotions do we have to overcome to be like, Pentheus is dead? What understanding do we have to have about Pentheus and Thebes to celebrate in this moment, rather than to, like, feel on edge about what exactly has occurred? Because we are supposed to see this from Dionysus' perspective. Dionysus is, as a god, supposed to be in the right here. To the point where he's sent these women into a madness and then brought one of their sons out to die violently. And then we do have to think also about why the chorus is celebrating. Because their first initial response is to celebrate because they won't get thrown in jail now. It is a very personal response in how they may no longer be affected by this situation. Despite the fact that they are well aware that Dionysus has previously freed everyone that Pentheus has caught. So the likelihood that they were actually in any danger seems to be null and void. Because it wasn't just the disguised Dionysus that got out. The guard, way back in the second scene, I think, said that the previously captured women that Pentheus had brought in had escaped. So these women, were they really in danger? Did they fear that they were really in danger? You understand now how complicated this has gotten. Because if they really did feel like they were in danger, then relief at the fact that Pentheus is now dead is something that they probably do feel. And anyone, again, knock on wood, I have not been in a situation like this, and I'm extremely grateful I haven't, but anyone who has been in fear of their lives and their safety and their freedom might be more understanding of how the chorus is feeling now, because that's going to affect you. And that's going to affect how you perceive the people that threatened your life and your safety and your freedom. And maybe it doesn't occur to you, like it doesn't necessarily occur to the chorus immediately here, how violently Pentheus died. They don't find out about that until after this point. So we can start also understanding how the chorus is feeling about this. But their outright celebration, this entire circumstances, you're sitting here just like, I don't know how I should feel about all of this. Because the women, the messenger actually threatens them again and says, no, Thebes will still jail you and enslave you, in punishment for what happened to Pentheus. So suddenly they're still under threat. But they also point out that Pentheus was a fountain of injustice. He was a very unjust person. So suddenly there's also that level of complicated, because it becomes a question of how truly unjust was Pentheus. Was he just unjust towards one group? Was it to the extreme? Like, what type of situation are we looking at? And we suddenly can't tell. Because we've been presented a very narrow account of what's happened. We haven't seen Thebes as a whole outside of when Dionysus has been there. We haven't seen Thebes in relation to other places, other people, just in relation to Dionysus. So is all of this about the injustice to Dionysus, or is there something more? Because suddenly we're not sure. How do you define a fountain of injustice? And prior guards have sided with the Dionysian Bacchic revelers over Pentheus. The messenger even here says, respect the gods, before he books it. So we've got this idea that this was an evil thing, that we're suddenly not sure in what ways is it evil. Is it evil simply because Pentheus died? Is it evil because of how he died? Is it evil because who killed him? Is it evil because of the reason that all of this got set up? We go from some firmer understanding that Pentheus is going to die because he insulted the god Dionysus, to watching how extreme all of this actually is, and wondering what side we're supposed to be on. And it's not the idea of, well, respect the gods and run away like the messenger does. Because we still have a scene left. And if it is really just an insult to Dionysus, it becomes a question of, is this the type of god that I really want to be worshipping if he's going to go to this extreme for an otherwise noble man? Because that's the other thing. This is a tragedy. And as we established with a tragedy, Pentheus has to be considered a noble character for his death to mean something. So there has to be more to his character. He doesn't seem to be an outright tyrant, because if he was, we wouldn't be feeling this. I'm not sure how I feel about this feeling. If he was truly an obvious tyrant, then yes, we'd fully side with the chorus about all of this going down. But Euripides puts that moment in where Pentheus speaks before he is killed. And Pentheus is purely a human in that. He says, "Mom, it's me. It's your son. I've made mistakes, but Mom, please don't kill me because of those mistakes." This is a man that we've seen with very little power, who perceives himself to have power, and in this moment of death, he's not defiant. He's not even catatonic. He doesn't present himself as a king or a tyrant or an emperor or anyone with power. He presents himself as a human with human connections, specifically with his mother. And a human that recognizes that he made mistakes, and he admits that. But he asks the question that a lot of us are probably asking right now, which was, did he deserve to die for those mistakes? What evil things have actually happened here? And how many people are freed or suffer because of those evil mistakes? because we want to trust the chorus in some way. But we're questioning this too much. And I think before we question it any further, we really should go on to the last scene where we start to see the aftermath of all of this and the other people who are affected. Pentheus is dead, but his mother Agave is here. His grandfather Cadmus. We're going to see a little more of the chorus. And we are going to see Dionysus again. So we need to think of evil things, but it is a question of who deserved what and why that in the literary form it's in, I don't think we can necessarily get those answers. But maybe the final scene gives us a little more. Maybe his family will help us understand a little more about how we should be feeling and why. So, I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.